So it's been hard for anyone on the outside world to keep track of my roles in the last few months. But effectively what we're doing in Publicis media across lots of different disciplines, actually, not just performance, we are really setting up the 4 individual agency brands, and then we're powering those brands with 7 practices. I won't list them all, but things to include content, performance, data and technology, those kind of practices. So I was leading the Starcom MediaVest Group performance offering, and as we moved into the Publicis Media restructuring, we've now created one performance practice across all of the agencies. So we've brought Performics together with the SMG offering to create this single practice, which will be called Performics. Right. So yes, my latest role is Global Chief Revenue Officer for Performics, and it's really exciting. We probably one of the largest performance marketing operations now in the world, and we've got a lot of developments that we plan to take in terms of how we bring some of the other channels together, things like DirectResponse TV and so on, under the fold, because we see that as the future for performance, moving away from a very kind of siloed approach where you're sort of sweating individual channels like search or social, to one that makes the most of all of the data and technology that has really come about very aggressively, I would say even in the last 12 months, to help us start to combine all these channels and understand how they all work together on behalf of our advertisers.
So we're here at Sky today talking about advanced TV and addressable TV advertising. People tend to say that TV historically is a branding ad medium. Can TV become a performance medium, and how does it get there?
Well, TV can absolutely be a performance media. I mean, you can ask a lot of advertisers, they will say it is today. I think the difference that we have is direct response television today has really relied on the idea of some loose targeting in terms of day parting, primarily day parting, and looking for sort of low cost audiences that you hope will convert because of the scale of the reach. And that's been fine and works very successfully for many advertisers. I think as we move into addressable TV and programmatic TV, I think it will bring a different angle on that performance discussion within TV. I feel that now we're going to convert from low cost, high reach, high frequency TV advertising to deliver performance to almost the opposite end of the spectrum, where we're looking for highly targeted, relevant audiences to then convert for a performance advertiser. And we're going to see, we already know that there are examples where it has worked successfully with certain advertisers. So I think the signs and the omens are very good. There is, what we're not sure about just yet is, how expensive can it become before it stops becoming an efficient performance medium, and the targeting, the highly targeted nature of it starts to be outweighed by the cost. But at the moment, as I say, the signs are good. And I see a world where what was known as DRTV becomes something that we can get very specific about who we want to reach. We know something about them, importantly, with the developments around the data discussion. We know something about them so that we can actually start to think about what ads we're showing them. And we have advertisers that are trying different copies. They are looking at regional upweights and downweights. They're finding different ways to play with the targeting that's available, and I think that's the future of DRTV.
And we're here at Sky Media in London, and Sky, the European pay TV provider, has these addressable TV platforms, AdSmart and Advance. Are you using them, and how do you regard them? What can they do, and what will they change?
We're absolutely using both of them. I think the advertisers are very excited about I guess what we would call the linear TV opportunity to target. That in that has, I think, really sort of raised the eyebrows of advertisers over the last year or so. And we are, as I said, we have a number of those advertisers that are really looking at different ways of targeting that they couldn't do before. I mean, whether it is looking at different copies to very specific households, whether it is just being able to regionally target, right? So it's not all rocket science, just being able to target at a regional level and to be able to do different upweights and so on that they couldn't do with Sky before. Or whether it's much more geolocated, very tight 5-mile radius type advertising for retail partners. They're experimenting with all these different ways, and so it's a huge opportunity for, I think, the advertisers and for Sky, and it's exciting that they're doing it. In a previous lifetime within the programmatic part of our business, as was known VivaKi, now it's Publicis Media, Data and Technology. And in that group, I would be the first to admit that I was a frequent critic of the broadcasters and in not moving quickly enough in this space. I'm pleased to see actually that I think we're suddenly getting a bit of a hockey stick of activity and things are accelerating. And being able to, being able to target now within VOD and so on is an important part of the equation for us, because advertisers do want to look at meaningful ways of looking at the balance between first screen TV, if you like, and VOD and tablet viewership. So we're starting to get to that point and gathering pace actually, and I think that's the encouraging thing.
Which category of advertiser do you think is the biggest beneficiary from some of this technology? Is it the usual suspects, the big brands, or is it new entrants?
I think the sort of ad smart technology can suit a number of different ends of the spectrum. I think the first to really get involved in this are obviously ones who are looking to target quite specifically. I think that's the first use case of it. As we get into the more advanced use of data and the combining of data sets to help target, then I think we're going to see the proposition broaden out. But right now, I mean, we have an advertiser like Dreams who literally want to drive footfall into stores that are maybe underperforming or whatever it may be. They may be launching a new one. So I think retail are definitely first and foremost in that list. And then, but as we start to talk about some of the targeting, so if you think about an Airbnb or something, or who are able to now combine data sets that maybe give them information about people's flying habits or holiday habits, suddenly that becomes really interesting, right? And there's no real reason outside of their own network of where they have properties. There's no real reason why that shouldn't be a broadcast brand opportunity, except that, just as we say generally in programmatic within display and video, except that hopefully you're showing around to, it's a relevant ad to the right person.
Okay, maybe lastly, you mentioned that hockey stick growth is now coming in this opportunity, but are there any bottlenecks remaining that might get in the way of that hockey stick?
I think we are all talking very positively about this space now, because we are generally pleased to see that there has been significant advancements. I think, not to get carried away, there are still, a number of areas that are going to slow down the adoption. I think we're at a macro level, we're in a testing phase, I would say, and I'm sure some of the stats, if maybe Sky today will show us some of the stats about how much growth they're seeing and so on, will be very positive. I think the idea of how do we start to combine and recognise the same sets of people, maybe less so at a linear level, but perhaps on their VOD. So wanting to be able to know that that's a registered user of one of their services or a customer of one of their services, but then being able to frequency manage, let's say, across all the other channels that we're using. We're talking about, as agencies with our advertisers, we're talking more and more about the use of data management platforms, this single view of the customer, and so that's still lagging a little bit. We also have you know, a number of different, I mean, especially if you look across the US and UK, a number of different ways of measuring success and measuring performance and measuring, you know, audience reach and so on, depending on the platform, depending on which entry point you're going in. So that obviously is not ideal. Okay, we want to expand from what is a relatively tight bar panel to obviously a much bigger data set. And so we will try lots of different things. But it's, you know, in the future we do need to get to a point where some of the measurement and reporting is much more standardized, so that it helps us all, you know, recognise where we should be putting the balance of our spend on behalf of advertisers.
Okay, great. Thanks for your time.
Okay.